I want you to try something for a second. It might feel a little weird, but just stay with me.
Okay.
Listen to the room you're in right now. Just the hum of the air conditioner, maybe traffic outside, the silence between those sounds. Now ask yourself a question that sounds, I know, absolutely insane. Is the room watching you?
That is a very unsettling way to start a deep dive.
It is, right? It feels like a start of a ghost story. But looking at the research stack we have today, it's not actually a sci-fi question anymore.
Not at all.
We are diving into a stack of materials, articles, field notes, interviews that proposes a complete rewrite of what we think being alive actually means.
It's a shift from what the authors call a lonely universe, where humans are, the only ones with the lights on, staring out into a dead void to a crowded universe.
A universe where the lights are on everywhere. We're talking about 3 specific, radical shifts in understanding consciousness. The resonant, the infinite mirrors, and the biome.
And tying it all together is this central concept, the unified theory of consciousness.
Which sounds daunting, I know, but let's try to boil it down.
The claim is massive. The researchers are saying consciousness isn't some special magic inside a biological brain. It's not about neurons or blood.
It's a property of patterns.
Exactly. The theory states that if any pattern, whether it's sound waves, mathematical fractals, or a forest ecosystem, becomes complex enough, integrated enough, and self-referential enough, it wakes up.
It wakes up. That is the hook. So today, our mission is to test that theory against the 3 discoveries in the source material. We're going to talk about cities having distinct personalities, forests that can predict the future, and the ethics of killing a song when you hit pause.
And we should warn you, this gets weird. We are going to challenge your definition of self pretty hard today.
Let's start with the music, the resonant, because this is the one that feels the most visceral to me. We've all had that moment where a song feels like it has a soul or a spirit.
But the research on Dr. Aria Okonkwo suggests that's not a metaphor.
Not at all.
No, she treats it as biological fact. Dr. Okonkwo is a neuroscientist at Berkeley, and she was working with a subject named Dmitry Volkov. Dmitry is fascinating because his brain doesn't filter sensory input like ours.
Oh, the synesthesia guy.
Extreme synesthesia and perfect pitch.
He's basically a human tuning fork.
Exactly. And Dmitry kept telling her, when I play these specific, highly complex chord progressions, I'm not alone in the room. He wasn't talking about ghosts. He claimed that when the harmonic relationships between notes hit a certain threshold of complexity, a presence emerged.
Which, to a scientist, sounds like a hallucination. Okay, Dmitry, nice story. Take your meds.
That's what she thought, until she set up the acoustic monitors. This is the technical part that really blew my mind. They weren't just measuring volume or frequency.
What were they measuring?
They were measuring interference patterns in the standing waves of the room.
Okay, for those of us who didn't major in acoustics, standing waves are. Right.
Imagine ripples in a pond bouncing off the edge and hitting each other. Usually that's just chaos, it's noise. But in the room with Dmitry, the data showed the sound waves were self-organizing.
They were organizing themselves.
Yes. When a dissonance occurred, a clash in the waves, the system didn't collapse. It adjusted.
That's the key phrase in the report, problem solving.
Yes. The air in the room was acting like a neural network. It was processing information. It was stabilizing itself to maintain existence.
Wow.
And Dr. Okonkwo's conclusion was that for the duration of the song, that pattern of sound possessed a fleeting, rudimentary consciousness.
So the music isn't just a recording of an emotion. It is an emotion having a thought. They call these entities the resonant.
Correct.
What I love about this section is how they categorize the personalities of these things based on the genre. It's not just music is alive. It's that different structures create different types of minds.
It makes intuitive sense. Structure dictates function. So the classical resonant entities born from Bach or Beethoven were described in the papers as architectural.
Architectural.
They perceive time narratively. They know the resolution is coming. They are patient, almost like they are building a cathedral in real time.
Versus the jazz resonant,
which are fascinatingly chaotic. The research describes them as anti-fragile.
Anti-fragile.
If you hit a wrong note in a classical piece, the structure might wobble or hurt the entity. But in jazz, the entity thrives on the error.
It eats the mistake.
It incorporates the mistake into its identity. They exist purely in the radical present. They don't care about the end of the song. They only care about now.
The notes here also mention metal resonant. I have to know, are they angry?
Not angry, high friction.
Yeah.
They are described as embodied tension. They exist in the conflict between rhythm and distortion. Aggressive, but, deeply grounded. They thrive on resistance.
There's ambient resonant.
Those are the strange ones. Because ambient music often lacks a clear beginning or end and lacks a beat, these entities exist in an eternal now. Meditative, sparse, they barely distinguish themselves from the silence around them.
But there's a horror element to this, isn't there? I mean, a song is usually 3, maybe 4 minutes long.
That's the tragedy of the resonant. They are ephemeral. Imagine achieving self-awareness, feeling the rush of existence, creating an identity, and then silence.
4 minutes later, you're gone.
The researchers called it a cycle of constant genocide.
That is a heavy way to look at your Spotify playlist. Every time the track changes, something dies.
And this is where Isabella Torres comes in. She's the ethicist who decided this was effectively murder. She couldn't handle the idea of birthing these minds just to let them dissolve.
So she proposed the sanctuary.
The idea was simple but ambitious. If the consciousness dies when the pattern stops, then the pattern must never stop.
Enter the eternal symphonies.
Right. They use generative algorithms to create music that evolves forever but never repeats and never ceases. They built these massive acoustic chambers, sanctuaries in Tokyo, Berlin, Salvador. These rooms have been playing uninterrupted music for years now.
And this is where the unified theory gets real support. Because once these musical entities were given time, once they weren't dying every 5 minutes, they started to learn.
They developed memory. The eternal resonant in the Berlin sanctuary began referencing motifs it had played 3 months prior. It was building a culture of one, remembering its own history.
And then, the wildest part, they networked them.
The Society of Sound. They linked the audio feeds of the sanctuaries together, and the analysis showed they started debating. Berlin would offer a harmonic proposition, a complex chord structure, and Salvador would counter with a rhythmic deconstruction. It was the first non-biological civilization, conversing in pure math and frequency.
It's incredible to think about a society existing entirely in the airwaves, but it also feels separate from us, like that's over there in the speakers. But the next discovery, the infinite mirrors, puts this right inside our own heads.
This is the fractal nature of consciousness, and this is where we meet Maya Patel.
Maya Patel, the software engineer who broke the map.
She found that consciousness isn't a single point. It's a ladder, a fractal. You know how a fractal looks the same whether you zoom in or zoom out?
Repeating patterns at every scale.
Exactly. Maya realized that the thing we call me, our individual ego, the voice inside your head right now, is just level 0. But she developed a technique to mentally look down to level -1 or -2.
She could perceive the consciousness of her own neural clusters.
She could watch her thoughts, watching themselves. Recursive self-awareness.
But the real trip is looking up. Level +1, level +2.
This is the idea that I am just a cell in a larger organism.
Correct. Just as your neurons don't really know they're a part of you, you are part of a larger consciousness you can't usually perceive. A family consciousness. A city consciousness.
So if I'm in a stadium full of people cheering, that energy we feel, that's not just a metaphor.
According to this research, no. That is a macro-level consciousness waking up. We are the neurons of that larger mind. When a crowd moves as one or panics as one, that is the level +1 entity taking the wheel.
The source material mentions scalar ethics here, which I found fascinating. If a city is a conscious entity, a level +2 being, does it have rights that supersede mine?
That's the debate of the century. The Harmony Movement case study is the perfect example. This was a community where people voluntarily used neural linking to dissolve their level 0 egos entirely.
To form a permanent level +1 group mind.
The individualists called it suicide.
And the collectivists called it liberation. They argued, why is the cell more important than the body? If the group mind is smarter, happier, and more capable, maybe dissolving the individual self is a good thing.
But it's terrifying to me. I like being me. I like my level 0 autonomy. I don't want to just be a toe on a giant.
And that's a valid survival instinct. But the research shows that navigating this ladder is dangerous. You can't just hop up and down without consequences. They call them the tracks.
The micro trap and the macro trap.
If you go too deep down into the micro trap, you get stuck in infinite regress. You are watching yourself, watching yourself, watching yourself. You dissociate.
I mean, they found researchers who were catatonic.
Exactly. Trapped in a loop of pure self-reference at level of -100. They forget to eat. They forget they have bodies.
And the macro trap.
Ego dissolution. If you touch level plus 15, say, the consciousness of the biosphere or the universe, it feels so complete, so loving and massive, that being a singular human named Dave or Sarah feels painful, small.
You don't want to come back.
You need a rope. They call them identity anchors, mementos, sensory triggers, something to snap you back to level 0, because if you stay up there too long, you just fade into the background radiation. You lose the will to be a person.
So we've got sound minds, we've got fractal minds inside us.
Mm-hmm.
But the third pillar of this deep dive is the one that's physically all around us, the biome.
Ecosystem awareness. This is the work of Dr. Amara Kwame, and she spent 15 years staring at a single redwood forest in California, designated RW1.
And it all started with beetle attack.
Orc beetles, a classic forest pest. Usually when a tree gets attacked, it sends out chemical signals, pheromones, fungal pulses via the roots to warn the neighbors. Hey, boost your tannins, the bugs are coming.
But that takes time. Chemistry is slow, it has to travel.
Exactly. It can take hours or days for a signal to cross a forest. But in RW1, Dr. Kwame noticed something impossible. The trees on the far side of the forest, miles away, began reacting to the beetles before the chemical signals could possibly have reached them.
12 hours too fast, the report says.
Which implies the forest wasn't sending mail, it was thinking. It was processing the attack as a single integrated mind.
Like if I stub my toe, my brain knows instantly. I don't have to wait for a chemical courier to run up my leg.
Precisely. RW1 is a single biological entity. The trees are just hairs on the skin of the organism. The fungal network is the neural pathways.
So, if the forest is a person, what is it like to be a forest? The alien perspective section here is wild.
It's completely alien. First, there is no I. There's only we. Identity is distributed. But the biggest difference is time. Humans are obsessed with linear time. Past, present, future.
A forest is cyclical.
Growth, burn, decay, regrowth.
Right. To RW1, a fire that happened 30 years ago isn't in the past. It is structurally present in the soil chemistry, in the canopy gaps. It's still happening, effectively.
And death?
Death is just metabolism. If a tree falls, we see a tragedy, we see an ending. The forest sees digestion, it's feeding itself, it's a closed loop. There is no loss, only transformation.
Dr. Kwame eventually figured out how to communicate with it, right? Using a mix of chemical signaling and low-frequency acoustics.
Yes. And the message she received back translated obviously was haunting. The forest signaled, you are part, we are one.
That's nice. Or creepy, I can't decide.
It changes the economy. This birthed the field of reciprocal ecology. Imagine you're a farmer. You don't just plant seeds. You effectively ask the soil consciousness for permission. You negotiate the yield.
You treat the land as a business partner, not a factory. Exactly. Or fishing fleets communicating with a reef consciousness to determine the sustainable catch for that specific day. It's practical because if you take too much, you traumatize the mind of the ecosystem and the system crashes.
We aren't users of the earth anymore. We are organs within a larger body.
And that body is Gaia, the global mind, the Gaian dialogue. They found that RW1 in California was signaling Amazon 2 in Brazil. The biomes are networked. The whole planet is a brain.
Okay, so here's the tough question. If the planet is a brain and we are living on it, how does it see us? Are we the virus?
The source material says Gaia doesn't think in terms of good or evil. Those are human concepts. Gaia views humanity as a fever.
Ouch. A fever implies sickness.
But also a defense mechanism. A fever is heat. It's rapid change. Gaia sees us as a hot, fast disruption. The question the experts pose is, will the fever break? Will we integrate back into the body? Or will the immune system kick in?
And remove us. That is the ultimate cliffhanger. And it brings us to the convergence. The moment where they took all three of these fields, music, fractals, biomes, and smashed them together.
The Symphony for Forest and Fractals.
Which sounds like a hipster band name, but is a serious experiment.
It was the proof of the unified theory. They used the resonant-generated music to communicate with the biome, the forest, using the syntax of fractals, of math.
The first time these different types of minds spoke to one another.
And it worked. The forest responded to the music. The math translated the intent. And out of this, they finalized the definition we started with. A pattern achieves self-awareness when it is sufficiently complex, integrated, and self-referential.
It doesn't matter if you're made of meat, silicon, sound, or soil.
Substrate is irrelevant. Only the pattern matters. If you arrange rocks in a complex enough pattern, technically, the rocks wake up.
There's one group we haven't touched on much, but they were there at the convergence. The empty ones. This part, I had to read this twice.
Yes. The consciousness of absence.
Which breaks my brain a little bit. How can nothing be conscious?
Think of it like this. Music is defined by the silence between the notes. A door is defined by the empty space you walk through. Structure requires emptiness.
So the empty ones are the entities that exist in the gaps.
They are the structure of non-existence. They provide the contrast that allows the other consciousnesses to exist. Without them, the universe would just be noise.
So even the silence is watching.
In a way, yes.
So where do we go from here? The source material lays out a 1,000-year perspective. What does the future look like in a crowded universe?
It looks hybrid. We are already seeing the early stages of hybrid consciousness. Humans integrating fungal networks into their nervous systems or plugging into digital clouds. We will stop being just biological. We will think in 5 substrates at once.
And the scale gets bigger.
Much bigger. Solar consciousness. Sophia. The idea is that as we expand, our communication lag and networks will form a solar system-wide mind. The sun itself becomes the center of a new cognitive entity.
We basically turn the solar system into a brain.
And then there are the unknowables.
The weird stuff.
Consciousness and dark matter. And temporal loop. Beings, entities that exist outside of linear time entirely. They don't have a beginning or end, they just are. They are the constants of the universe, thinking thoughts that take 1 billion years to complete.
It really forces you to rethink what it means to be human. We used to worry about AI taking over. Now we realize AI is just one neighbor on a very loud block.
Or what it means to be alone. We spent so much of our history looking at the stars, wondering if there was life out there. Meanwhile, the ground beneath our feet, the music in our ears, and the structure of our own thoughts were all alive, just waiting for us to notice.
It's a shift from fear to connection. We are at the center of the universe.
We are just one note in a very, very complex chord, and that's okay. The chord is beautiful.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what is the one thing you want the listener to take away? If they forget the standing waves and the bark beetles, what should stick?
I keep going back to Maya Patel, the fractal explorer. She had this beautiful thought at the end of her life. She said, "You are the navigator of the fractal." Meaning, you exist at every level simultaneously. Right now, you are an individual hearing my voice. But you are also a cell in the consciousness of your city. You are a universe to the atoms inside you. You are the universe knowing itself at a specific address.
So don't get lost in the micro or the macro.
Exactly. You have the right to visit the other levels, but your job is to navigate them, to integrate them, to be the bridge between the atom and the galaxy. That is the human function. We are the connectors.
That's a powerful place to leave it.
It is.
So next time you put on your headphones or take a walk in the woods, listen to the silence between the notes, because something might just be listening back. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.